Is 2026 the year you get left behind?
I think it might be.
No, Kayla, it's not.
No, but it might be. There's AI, there's job hugging, there's productivity, efficiency.
Don't worry. These people listen to Per My Last Email. We got you. We're going to break down how 2026 is not going to be the year you get left behind. It's the year you're going to get ahead. Let's get into it.
We'll get to the show in a minute. But first, Kyle, how often do you work from home?
You know the answer to this. I hate working from home. Checking emails from bed and the only human interaction is getting lunch delivered. I'll pass. So I'm in the office every day of the week.
I know, and you're very smug about the whole thing. Why do you come in every day?
That free cold brew on tap, duh. But really, there's just something about the energy of being around people all day that really gets me productive, creative, and happy to be working.
Well, I actually agree. I don't come in every day, but I do feel the positive vibes from being in an office.
Which is exactly why we love Industrious. Industrious is a co-working space that brings everything you love about the office. Daily breakfast, Hello Bagel Mondays, coffee and espresso that are actually good, afternoon charcuterie spreads, happy hours every Thursday, and beautifully designed spaces. They got it all without any of the hassle.
Industrious has membership models that fit every working need, whether you're a freelancer who just wants to get out of the house or an enterprise looking for a turnkey, larger office space. And with over 250 locations, you can always find a workspace that works for you.
So try out Industrious for yourself with a day pass or a meeting room booking, now 50% off for Per My Last Email listeners. Visit industriousoffice.com/PMLE to get your discount or free tour.
That's industriousoffice.com/PMLE for 50% off your first day pass or meeting room booking. All right, Kyle. So set the stage. Is 2026 the year you get left behind? That's a big thing.
It's not. These people listen to Per My Last Email, Kayla. These
They'll be
are
fine.
The select few that are going to get ahead. But let's talk about why we wanted to do this episode. We're in the new year now. It's 2026. Why choose, or why are we maybe calling this year the year you get left behind, or the year you might get left behind? What's causing that framing?
Okay, so there's like a ton of things that are happening right now. The number one thing is, I think we've been talking about for the last 6 to 8 months, is job hugging.
Yeah.
We're in a low hire, low fire environment. So companies are not voluntarily turning over. They're not adding people to their companies. They're not removing people. They're not replacing people. And so therefore, people are doing a lot of job hugging. Employees are gripping tightly to the jobs that they currently have. They're not necessarily in the market looking for new opportunities because those opportunities do not exist.
And so if you're in a job, that seems okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you still have a job. That doesn't mean you're getting left behind. But if you don't have a job right now, the idea is that maybe it's hard to break in.
Exactly.
And that is one way in which you might get left behind in 2026.
That's one way. The other, I think, obviously, is AI. It's something we've been talking about for years now, but is becoming increasingly relevant. I think as it becomes a little bit more baked into our workflows, a little bit more advanced, it becomes a very real threat. Not necessarily, I think, to entire jobs just yet, but I do think that the people that are leveraging AI are the people that are able to get vastly more done and therefore are going to accelerate in their careers.
Yeah, and from a company perspective, a company that figures out how to fully use this technology, which I don't think we're there yet, but if 2025 was the year of AI experimentation, 2026 might be the year of AI it's actually happening. It's like the infrastructure of companies. It's baked into the processes. If companies can figure that out, and now jobs that you would give to a human can be done with technology, and you don't have other things for those people to do, you can see how companies might actually become more profitable by downsizing or not hiring at all and let the technology do the work. And so that is also a potential threat in 2026 for people.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about is 2026 the year you get left behind, it will not be for everyone, but it might be for some. And so one of the things we talked about a lot in 2025 from a macro level is the idea of a K-shaped economy. So what that is that's identifying basically that it's not, the economy as a whole is not going up, it's not going down, but in fact, there's two factions. So for those that are more well off, that are more comfortable, that are wealthier, you're seeing the economy continue to grow because there's additional spend. Those people have assets, which means that as the stock market goes up, their assets continue to grow. They're spending more. Luxury experiences are becoming more of a thing that is used by those individuals.
Right. We were just on a yacht the other day.
Right.
Yeah,
famously, that was us on our yacht. And for the other people that maybe aren't as invested in the stock market or are slightly, lower class, middle class, it's a completely different environment. And I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be a one-to-one experience, but I do think that I could see that this year is like a K-shaped work career ladder situation where the people that are successful are going to be extremely successful. And the people that are not are going to have a very, very hard time moving forward.
Yeah, we could see the economy, kind of what you're describing in other ways, like turning into a winner takes all, winner takes most market. And technology tends to do that, where like it allows a scale that then concentrates a lot of the wealth or the positive things generated from the experience to a very select few at the top, and the bottom don't get anything. And so, yeah, I think that also is a fear maybe with this technology too. Do you actually think that is going to happen at like the company level in 2026, that it's going to get a lot, companies are going to start firing people, companies are going to leverage technology more and more? Like, do you think that is a bit hyperbolic, or do you think that is what's going to play out?
I hope it's not. And I think that as companies start to understand what the limitations of AI actually are, I think this year, we talked about this actually in our fun variety show a few weeks ago, where the number of layoffs last year were quite high and the number of layoffs that were directly attributed to AI were quite low. But I think that there's this vibe that AI is causing a ton of layoffs. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the case until we fully understand what exactly is like the technological limit of that whatever. Like, can you replace customer service with AI? Maybe. Can you replace really cookie cutter coding with AI? Probably. But I don't think we're going to see that until the end of the year, as people are still trying to figure out what's going on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, because I have a very similar opinion, and I don't want this episode to be like a doom scroll podcast.
But it could be if we wanted it to
where
be.
You leave feeling terrible. I'm actually optimistic, and we can get into the why. But I think at the company level, which one is not something you could really control. So I think it's good that we talk about it and provide context. But you as an individual, you can't really control if Klarna decides to fire 700 people and replace them with AI, and then 3 months later say, oh shit, we need to bring them back, which is what they did. So some of this technology, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves of how powerful it is right now. And then we're seeing companies that go all in on it actually pull back and need more human involvement than they thought. I do think that technology will continue to progress, and that might actually get a little scarier. But I do think, like most technological change, if you're on top of the tools and you're on top of the technology, you just shift to higher, quote unquote, higher level work. So I think in one case, the companies are getting a little ahead of themselves with the technologies. The second is actually org change and implementing this stuff is really hard.
Yeah.
So you can go on Twitter and be like, oh my gosh, this stuff is crazy. It's going to replace every X, Y, or Z employee. But actually figuring that out and how to do it takes a long time. And through that transition, you figure out where to go in the organization. So it's not going to happen overnight, which I think is a good sign. And then the other thing I want to call out is we did an episode on recession proofing your career, which I think is a really good episode. If you haven't listened, go back to that. There's always things you can do that are in your locus of control that can make 2026 a great year for you. And I think focusing on those things rather than the noise around what companies might do or how AI might progress is a better strategy.
So what do you recommend? What are those things that we should be focusing on this year?
Well, okay, before I get to that, I have one maybe hot take. I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on it. What I do think might happen in 2026 is hybrid workers or fully remote workers start getting left behind more. And I think that's an interesting threat potentially that I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Why?
I think the boom of remote work was COVID, right? That was the first time you could really do it. And ever since, I feel like both people have increase their desire to come back to an office. Most people I talk to who were remote permanently are like, I'm getting a little like lonely and like I'm going a little insane. Like I want an office environment. So I think people are looking for it. The more like senior leaders I talk to and the discussions they're having are like, wow, we're realizing that there's this layer, particularly for junior employees, of people who are fully remote that like maybe aren't getting this like kind of tacit knowledge and like learning through osmosis. And we're seeing them fall a little behind compared to other cohorts. Like, do we have to start like, not forcing, but like really focusing on bringing people together in the office to have those sorts of experiences? So I do think that trend will continue. I'm not saying it's full in office 5 days a week, but I think if there was a spectrum from remote to in office, it's going to swing more to in office. I think companies will probably ratchet that up. And so if you're like hell bent on being fully remote, that might be a threat where you get a little left behind, both in your career and from opportunity perspective.
Interesting.
But we'll see how that plays out.
So you feel like that is not necessarily, that's a separate trend, not necessarily related to the rise of AI.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is one of the, if we're looking at all the bullet points, it's like low hire, low fire, economic uncertainty, the threat from AI as an advancing technology that could replace individuals or, allow people to do more with less. And also this return to office mentality, pressure. All of those three things could be working against you as you approach 2026.
Exactly. And like it's kind of a little out of your control. The reason I brought up the kind of hybrid work in office remote is I would maybe start doing a mindset shift if you're listening to this and you're like gung-ho about remote, like that's great. And if you can find opportunity for it, that's wonderful. Keep doing it. I just think that opportunity might shrink a little and you might have more opportunity if you're willing to compromise on that component of your career.
It's interesting because I actually think that I think I agree with you mostly.
I know it was painful for you to say that.
It was painful for me to say that. I think I mostly agree with you, but I also think that there is some relation to the AI, the threat of AI, and the increase in popularity of in-person.
Okay, say more.
I think the way that I'm reading it is that with every like motion, there's like equal and opposite reaction.
Okay, Isaac Newton.
Or whatever. I don't know. It's a law or something. I don't know. But I think that we've seen the threat of AI looming and we've also seen the pushback against AI. But I think that the push, not excluding the pushback of the technology itself, I think there's this idea that people are now craving in real life, in person,
just humanity.
Like to kind of prove that it is you, right? It's like there's something really like we've been missing with all of this, like everything's online, everything's remote, everything is now like, is this a bot? Is this a person? I have no idea. And so I think there's this like we're craving as a society like more in-person experiences. And I think you could see that. You see that in the personal, like not professional, but I think you could see that in professional life too. Where it's not necessarily like, oh, I want everyone to be in person because, I want to make sure I know what they're doing. But it's like, oh, like that's what we're
the
craving.
Culture, You need it. I think like everything, a new, cultural zeitgeist or new technology comes on the scene. Let's take remote work. And it gets really popular really fast. And people are only thinking about the positives. Wow, I can work from anywhere. I have so much independence. This is amazing. And it's true. But like any overcorrection, then the pendulum swings back is what you're saying. And we end at an equilibrium that was different than 2019, but isn't as far as 2021 or 2022. I think we're going to see that pendulum shift back. So something to think and keep top of mind this year. Let's move into like what you personally can do. So is 2026 the year you get left behind? I would say 2026 is the year there's a ton of opportunity as well.
And great reframe. Love that for you.
Well, okay. If AI is this new technology, it's going to change the world, blah, 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 blah. With any change, there is great opportunity. It increases the threat that you might get left behind, but it also increases the odds you can get ahead. And so like the first thing I would say is like, take a deep breath, in and out. I think there's always a ton of hype that like it's the end of the world. everyone's going to lose their jobs to the robots. Oh my, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right. But the robots are kind of dumb still. So it's like, let's give them a few years.
Sure. But I think like just stripping away all the noise and again, like focusing on what you can control, maybe that's the theme of 2026 is like ignore the noise, just focus on what you can control because no one knows what's going to happen. All you can do is wake up every day and like do your best. I think the people that can focus on that are going to have a wonderful year and learn a lot about these new tools instead of being afraid all the time. And that's just like a doom cycle. So like take a deep breath. Like the thing about work that isn't going to change is like, if you can help the company or add value, you will continue to work there and you'll continue to make an impact. And I think that undercurrent is really important to understand. So my first like tactic then, we talked about the threat of AI is the opportunity of AI or automation or these new tools. I would say like you have to be learning them now. We talked a ton about experimentation in 2025. I think it was like the second episode we ever did of this show was like, will AI take your job?
Yeah.
I guarantee you none of our takes are good anymore in that.
Do not go back and listen to that. We haven't for sure.
I think Kayla probably was like, AI is not going to mean anything.
Oh,
we'll be done talking about this in 2 weeks.
I don't know that I said that.
I know you didn't. You didn't. But like it would be quite funny.
We should revisit. Yeah.
Like, so, but that was the vibe. Like, no one knew where this was progressing. We have a lot more data points now. I think 2026 is the year, like, you have to kind of get real about these tools and you have to be using them. You have to be experimenting personally with them because now it's kind of like table stakes. Like, so if you're not, someone is. And I've seen it in my own career, in my own work, like, they are pretty powerful if you can master them. Like, you can go a lot faster, you can get a lot more work done. Now, you have to be thoughtful about them, and we'll talk about that later. But I think that is like tactic one, is you have to be learning these tools, or you are going to fall behind the technology trends. You don't want to be the person in like 2010 who doesn't know how to use a computer.
And we'll be right back after this. Okay, back to the show.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's one of my things. So as somebody who maybe famously is slightly more hesitant about AI adoption, I was thinking about, because I know you famously are very gung-ho about AI.
Okay, so, I'll take it.
And so I was thinking like, okay, I am not as experimental with new tools. When I see something come out, I'm not like, wow, think of the opportunities. I'm like, wow, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And
like, please don't make me do that.
Don't make me do that. And so as somebody who's been a little bit more resistant and hesitant to change, I am also thinking about how I can incorporate leverage into my day-to-day work life. And so this is actually not to be too like behind the scenes-y of this, but when we were initially talking about this episode, we were thinking, is 2026 the year of leverage? And the idea there being that you can, like the physical mechanics of a leverage can mean a lot of different things, but like you can use a little bit of force to move a heavy object versus like if you're just trying to pick it up yourself. Yeah. It's like technically
less input, more output.
Right. And so how do you do that?
I love how we've done Isaac Newton physics and how a lever works.
It's like, is it a fulcroom? Is that what's the thing?
It's a Bill Nye podcast.
Anyways, yeah. Get us on science,
Science Channel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, so I think one of the ways that you can experiment with leverage is by looking at AI tools. And if you are hesitant like I am, something that I have started doing is very like gently and like easing my way into it, baking these tools into my everyday systems that I already do. Instead of having to build a system where I'm now changing my habits, like for example, not sponsored, but like every time I do an online meeting, I just press join meeting and open granola. Like I'm not doing anything else, but I'm now getting transcripts of all of my meetings. And I have been able to use that in like, what did I say?
Literally.
What did I tell them that I was going to do and by when? Like I should have written that down and I didn't. And I just go back to my granola and I can like ask it. And it's actually super, super helpful and allows me to not drop the ball even more than, what I used to do.
Right. And so you compared to old you, like the old you would have been like, fuck, what did I say?
Right. I got to Slack them
in the
now.
meeting, Slack the person. They don't remember. I'm like, okay, like I'll just do this. Present it to someone. They're like, that's not what you said you were going to do. Well, what is this? Compared to now, it's like I am actually probably paying more attention because I know someone is taking notes in the background for me.
Yeah.
And I have this record. Like that's just a perfect use case of like how the tool has helped you be a better worker compared to an older version of you. And now you like, scale that across the entire economy. Like if you're not doing it, someone is. And like they're going to be at an advantage. So learning these tools. Other thing, like you say AI, it's so ephemeral and like what is AI? Like I think it's just better to talk about specific tools, which is like if you're not using a granola or like a recorder for your meetings, like you should be. So go like figure that out. The other one that I'm really impressed with is I am so bad at Excel. So bad. It's so intimidating. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Like I get in there's all these formulas. I don't know how to do anything. Kayla has like probably a million Slacks of me like asking her how to like
It's true.
turn a cell red or something.
Well, not that rudimentary,
but you get my drift. It's very intimidating. And that always was a limit to like what I could do and how I could analyze data. Now there are tools where you basically just use natural language. Like I am talking to a sheet and I'm like, because conceptually, like I can think through what I want and like the nuances of it. I just couldn't get the computer to do it. Now I can. That to me is like a really empowering feeling.
Right.
And it's a really exciting feeling that like, wow, I can make more informed decisions because I can manipulate the data in a way now that I couldn't before to give me the insights I need to be more effective. And it opens up this whole new tool. Like that's super exciting and like optimistic to me. And so that's why I'm like excited about the tools. It's always surprising when people don't want to do that. It feels like, but you can like explore more now. If you're curious, like, isn't that a really good thing?
Yeah.
So another example of like, I would lay out like the tools that now you can use or the programs you now can use with this new technology and see how they can implement them into your workflows. If you've changed nothing about how you've worked the past year, like you're like, that's how you're going to get left behind. So like do some sort of like workflow audit that will really help.
Yeah. And also I think if you're, again, like me, kind of hesitant about this, I think the Excel example is really great because let's use Google Sheets, right?
Yeah.
Like you were messaging me about this earlier, that like now Gemini, which is like incorporated into Google Sheets, like you can work with it a lot easier.
Yeah.
That is not like you didn't need to download something new to get it, right? Like it was baked in.
Yeah.
And so I think if you, like me, are a little bit more hesitant, just not pressing like X. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's already, they're already being incorporated into your tools that you're using every day. You're probably using Google Sheets. You're probably using Google Docs. Just see, okay, it's already embedded. What happens if I press Option W and it gives me some suggestions on how to complete the sentence or whatever?
Yep.
Like, how is that helpful and how is that not helpful? And then from there, maybe you can kind of more understand the benefits of these tools without having to be like, well, I guess I got to write down all the tools that I kind of want to use and click on them and download them and figure out if I like them and figure out how to prompt engineer and all that stuff. Like, I don't think we're going to have to do that as much.
And it gets too intimidating when you think about it like that.
Right. Well. And of course, and it's like, oh, this is another thing. I'm busy as hell already. Like I can't invest in this time. But also like, I think as long as you're not opting out, like, and I understand the desire to opt out sometimes. Yeah. But if it's right in front of you, just take advantage, see what it does, and then make a judgment call, which is kind of what I've been doing, and I've kind of been a little surprised by myself.
I have a Slack from Kayla that was like, I'm starting to like AI or something like that.
Okay, I can actually tell you the exact thing.
I'll have to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, no. It was, I had this challenging email that I had to send that was basically like, there's been some tension with, between me and a client. I guess I'm the client, whatever. A vendor, thank you. Where like there's been some errors and I was like, I know I'm missing some. Like I can think of 3 and I know there's like so many more in the past like 2 months. So I just said, yo, chat, like, can you tell me all the things that they've done wrong?
Like, yeah, it's connected to Gmail.
Yeah.
It searched through all your mail and it surfaced these things that like even you could have probably have found, but it would have taken you hour.
It would have taken me an hour.
We've all been there, like you're guessing keywords and you're searching through so many emails. Like, what's the point of doing that?
Right. And because there's so many email threads, I'm like, oh, shoot, was this it? And then I have to go through the 30 emails in this thread. No, it wasn't this one. I know they said this, but I want to confirm before I say that they said it and then they didn't.
Yeah.
So it was actually super, super helpful there. And that was one thing that like allowed me to have a more effective conversation with this vendor without feeling like I think I'm right, but I'm not sure. Now I'm like, no, I know I'm right.
Yeah.
And it actually ended up being a really positive conversation.
It's a great example. And before, I don't want this to turn into
I know.
Like,
we got you.
iPod, but I think, so like, let's just talk tactically what we just said is basically like, if you are not using these tools in some capacity, or you're not interested or curious, you're probably going to get left behind.
Yep.
If you use them, it's a great way to get ahead and be more effective. And so if you're not, like, think deeply about how you can start doing that. I love your thing, which is like, just don't press X.
Yeah.
Try it out. Get curious, and you're going to learn one or two things that really take you to the next level. The thing I want to highlight before we move on to number 2 is, like, what we're not suggesting is you just go to chat and you're like, do my job, make no mistakes, enter. Like, the downside is if you're not a thoughtful person, you're not thinking deeply, then like these tools are only going to make you more ineffective and make every one of your colleagues hate you. You're just going to be producing work slop. That is not what we're saying. And if you do that, you'll also get left behind.
Yeah.
There's a responsible, thoughtful way to use these tools. And that's what we're encouraging you to do.
So that's the whole thing about leverage, right? Which I think is so interesting, is like, it's a small input and a large output. But if the small input is garbage, the large output is going to be like super mega hot garbage.
It's 2008 financial crisis.
That's literally what caused that, was leverage, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really, really interesting point. And I actually hadn't thought about it that way. And so definitely, as you're taking advantage of these AI tools, like, AI work slop is like a legitimate, like, don't be an idiot.
Don't be that person.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another tactic I have.
Sure.
How do you get ahead in 2026? I think it is also, and kind of always will be, network. And I think that this is a very underrated piece of your career. And I'll say particularly, like, we talk about low hire, low fire market. My hunch is that the people that are getting hired are the people who have an inside track to an organization. They know someone that works there. It cuts through the BS of a million thousand AI applications. They know they're a human. They're trusted. It's a lot easier to integrate them into the company. That network is really going to save you. It's a safety net for your career. And so if you don't have some sort of strategy of how you're connecting to other people in the industry you want to work in, how you're strengthening those relationships, how you're grabbing a coffee once a week, I would do that in 2026 as well. If you don't do it, you might get left behind. If you do it, you're going to get ahead. So that would be my second tactic.
Yeah, 100%. I have here, like, lean into the personal. I think as the world gets increasingly impersonal, as we talked about with like remote work to in-person work, you will make a broader and larger impact if you are leaning into your personal connections and what makes you human. I think that is, like, humanity, even if it means more mistakes, like, humanity is going to be appreciated in 2026.
Yeah. So I think I have a great kind of piggyback off of that.
Sure.
Did you see the Wall Street Journal article that was like, we need more storytellers? That kind
it
of
was
blew up
like
recently?
500 applications are open for storytellers or something. Yeah.
So that's the other thing I think is going to allow you to get ahead in 2026. And it's a perfect encapsulation of this point you're making. As we have more technology, it is good, but like the humanity piece becomes more scarce and thus more valuable. So I always think if you are someone who can tell a really compelling story, you can connect with humans, like you can move people to action, you're motivating, that will never, ever go out of style. And in some weird counterintuitive way is more in demand when technology grows. So that's another tactic I would think is like, if you aren't an effective communicator, public speaker, writer, that stuff is going to get more valuable. And I would spend a lot of time figuring out how to get better at that. Take a course, start writing and refine it. That will pay immense dividends in 2026.
Yep, I agree.
Do you have another one?
I have another one, and this is my last one.
All right, I have one more then.
Okay, so mine is like this combination of basically extreme prioritization in 2026. Like you need to be focused. You need to be hyper focused on what matters, and you need to make sure that you're spending your time on those things instead of doing stuff that doesn't matter that maybe makes you feel productive. So making sure that you have smart constraints, making sure that you're prioritizing effectively, that you're delegating perhaps to these AI tools effectively, and also that you're being intentional with kind of everything that you're focusing on in 2026 from a work perspective, but also, let's be real, personally too. What was yours?
Well, I love this. It's a really key point, and I think the other it hits on the other downside of these tools and like them being accessible to everyone is like, people are like, oh, I can like vibe code an app. I can go talk to Excel. Like, but then you just do a bunch of stuff that you're not particularly great at. And like, did you actually accomplish anything?
Yeah.
So I think with this focus piece, it's like, use the tools, but they're a means to an end. They're not the end itself. You don't get points for just being in Claude code.
Right.
If you don't know how to code anything valuable.
Right.
So like, what are you doing it for? And having that prioritization, having that focus in 2026 will be so important as the proliferation of these tools increase. And there's all of this appeal to like try a bunch of different things. So again, it's this balancing act. My last one is just like think deeply.
Famously. Yeah.
No, like legit.
Have you considered thinking, audience?
Like we're kind of in like the death of thinking.
Yeah.
In some way, like you look
Brain
at like
rot. Yeah.
yeah, it's like brain rot. How many people read? No one reads. Like short form video. I mean, we're guilty of it. We put out a lot of short form video.
I'm out here on TikTok.
A lot of short form
Big time.
video. But like, I think there's a premium when things get easy and you can just like talk to chat and people leave chat a million times. There becomes a premium for someone who's actually like thinking deeply, thoughtfully, integrating, synthesis. Like that again will be the human skill that's very valuable.
I like that.
And so finding ways to just like make sure you're not being dumb and like if you remove all friction from your life, thinking is hard.
Yeah.
Thinking is friction. Learning is friction. You've done it wrong. Like remove friction on the admin stuff. You want to keep friction in on the being thoughtful stuff. We've talked a lot about this. And I think that's a really key piece.
Yeah, I really like that, especially as it gets easier and easier not to think. Like, you guys, we got to be thinking.
We got big thinking energy.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Into 2026. Let's do it.
Can I end with one parable?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, whatever.
Well, I want to say, like, we started this with, this is the year you might get left behind.
Yeah.
I hope we've gotten you to a place where it's like, this is the year where with the right focus, I can actually get ahead. And so I just want to end with like, this idea of locus of control and focusing on what you can control. There's a parable that's like one of my favorite parables.
Is this the farmer?
Yes.
Oh, I've
My
heard it so
farmer
many
parable.
times.
It's my farmer parable.
Okay.
I'll give a very quick
Let's hear
TLDR,
it,
which is
let's hear it.
basically like there's a farmer and he like gets injured. His leg gets injured and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's like the worst thing that ever happened to you. Like, I'm so sorry. You can't be a farm. Then like the country goes to war. So they conscript every healthy male.
Right.
And because he's injured, he doesn't have to go to war. And then people are like, oh my God, you're so lucky you didn't have to go to war. Like, that's the best thing that could ever happen. And it repeats like ad nauseum, where something you think is bad ends up being good. Something you think is good ends up being bad. And like, you don't really know until your life fully plays out. We've talked about this on the podcast too. Like my freshman year at George Washington was the worst year of my life at the time. It ended up being probably the best or most impactful year of my life and shaped me into who I am now. And so as we get into a 2026, we don't know how it's going to play out. It might get a little rocky for folks. It might not be ideal for you right now. Yeah, it sucks for someone to be like, don't worry, it'll get better. It might not get better. I'm not going to lie to you, but there always is a chance it will. And you just don't know how it's going to play out until we're 5 years in the future looking back on it. So to the best of your ability, keep that in mind. Try to stay as positive as possible and like focus on what you can control. The rest is noise and out of your control. I think that will help you a lot in 2026.
Yeah, whatever. Kyle coming in with some optimism to end the show.
We got to end with a little optimism.
Sure, I see it.
All
I
right.
get it.
Well, I appreciate you listening to that. Should we roll the credits?
Let's do it.
Our producer is Michaela Heck.
Our technical director is Lonnie Fiskus.
Brittany DeTaco is our audio engineer.
And our president is Devin Emery.
This show is a production of Morning Brew.
Thanks for listening.
Let's make it a great 2026, y'all.